So first of all, YC itself. YC is now 20 years old. So the first YC batch was 2005. As Luis alluded, my partner, Steve Huffman of Reddit, was in that first YC batch ever. So we have very deep YC roots. Reddit was actually the first ever YC unicorn. A little trivia fact, Sam Altman, who now runs OpenAI, was also in that YC batch back in 2005. And then he actually ran YC for several years before moving to OpenAI full time. But in any event, YC is a 2-decade-old program, and people wonder if its best days are behind it, or if it will be able to kind of maintain the same future dominance that it's had in the past. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you every leading indicator that we look at shows that YC is stronger than ever. The application acceptance rate is trending downwards. Luis mentioned my batch had a 2.5% acceptance rate. The last YC batch was a record low at 0.6% application acceptance rate. This batch, they haven't announced it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even lower, like 0.5% or even maybe lower than that. So YC is getting incredibly selective, and that statistic's important because it shows the kind of supply-demand dynamic between how many companies apply to YC versus how many YC has the capacity to accept. And the lower the application acceptance rate is, the more choosy YC is being and can afford to be, because there's so much demand for great founders to go through YC, and obviously they have limited capacity for how many they can fund. So I think demand for YC amongst founders is at an all-time high, and YC is trying to actually expand their capacity to fund more companies, but there's limiting factors to that. But I think that's a great leading indicator, because the more choosy YC can be, obviously, the higher the founder quality is on average, and the better outcomes we'd expect from YC companies. We also can score the quality of each batch through our algorithm, and that's also trending upwards, so that the average batch quality is trending upwards in our algorithm. It's not perfect, there's up years and down years, but the trend is up and to the right. We can look at other leading indicators like graduation rates, the percentage of YC companies that raise a Series A, Series B, Series C, those are all trending in the right direction. So long story short, every metric we look at shows that YC is not only not losing its dominance, it seems to be, doing better and better. Companies are growing revenue faster, they're raising rounds more quickly, the founder quality is increasing. Like every metric we track shows that YC is trending in the right direction. And I don't have any concerns at all about YC taking a turn for the worse. Basically, there's strong network effects. YC benefits from network effects just like a lot of startups do. And I think those kind of compound and increase over time. And if anything did change, we'd be the first to notice it. But we haven't seen anything worrisome in the statistics that we track. Rebel itself, I hate to say this to Soren, because I know he was an LP in Fund 1, but I actually think our Fund 2 will do better than Fund 1, and I think Fund 3 will do better than Fund 2 with entry valuations at an all-time high this year. I think it shows that there's plenty of investor demand to invest in YC companies. In fact, it's the hottest I've actually ever seen it. Which I don't love, actually, because that means entry valuations are higher for us, and therefore we need higher exit valuations to make the same returns. But it's not a bad climate for founders at all. So I think we have the slide up here. So yeah, so this year, or the latest batch was around 27 million. Oh no, so that was Fund 1. Do you have a Fund 2 average entry? Okay, yeah. So the last batch was 28, almost 29 million average entry valuation, very, very high. So yeah, so it's certainly hot right now in the Valley. I think the reason for that is, there's 2 letters, AI. That we're in the midst of an AI revolution right now, and it's not only had a huge impact on public markets, but obviously private markets as well. And investors are understandably excited to back this next wave of AI innovation that's happening through startups. And this pace in which we've seen companies grow their revenue and grow their valuation is like nothing I've ever seen before. So there's this technological tsunami underway right now, and I think both investors and founders are recognizing that these last YC batches have been like 80 or 90% AI startups, which is just unheard of. It used to be there there was no single sector. Like crypto, for example, was never more than like 2% of YC companies, and AI has completely dominated batches. And that's both, I think, due to founder interest in building an AI, and then also investor interest in investing in AI companies, again, with good reason. They're growing very rapidly, valuations are increasing. We haven't had any exits yet because it's still early days, but I think there'll be a ton of value created in the IPO market as these companies reach maturity. Uh, on the flip side, I will say there's less liquidity right now in venture because of what's happening in a macro standpoint. So it probably would be even hotter if there was more liquidity right now in venture. But even despite the fact that there's this kind of IPO overhang where there hasn't been as many IPOs as we would expect, so there's less liquidity in the market, and there probably, like, quote unquote should be. Basically, companies are just staying private much longer. You see OpenAI raising money at like a $500 billion valuation. Like, companies just aren't motivated to go public because they can raise so much money through the private market. So the lack of liquidity, lack of public market liquidity, has probably dampened things a little bit, which I think is a good thing, because I can't imagine where valuations would be if we didn't have this lack of liquidity. They'd be even more insane.